Okay, we're totally live. We're totally recording. Kathy, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you are with us. Folks, you're in for a real treat today. So I'm just thrilled to be here with Kathy. She's gonna provide a wealth of knowledge. She impresses me every time we meet. But before we get started, we got to bring the energy. We got to pick it up a little bit. We got to do some intro music. And if you feel like dancing with me, you can. All right, here we go. Here we go. Come on, Pam. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we're getting ready for the weekend, folks. We're doing this thing. We're jamming. I am so excited. Kathy Berardi is here with us, not to be confused with Kathy Bacardi. She wanted me to know it's not that kind of party. Um, but it could be, this weekend maybe. We'll take it up a notch.
It's five
Um,
o'clock somewhere.
it is. It is. It's Friday. It's Friday. Folks, Kathy is just an incredible PR consultant, and she's been in this business for 20 plus years. She's a storytelling strategist. Her clients have been placed in the New York Times, in Wall Street Journal. The list goes on and on and on. She's truly, truly an expert. And so today I invited her to speak with us, kind of like thinking about it like, hey, if we wanted to bootstrap this thing ourselves, like what would that look like for us? Like how can we get the tools to get started as speakers to start getting some earned PR for ourselves? And not just having it, but also learning how to leverage it so that then that results in clients, in inquiries, in conversations, and in building our credibility and authority. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Kathy Berardi.
Thank you so much, Caesar. It is great to be here, and I'm so excited to meet everyone today and to anyone who's viewing this in the future online. Great. Thank you for taking the time to connect today on this.
So cool. Folks, we're going to go through kind of interview style, and Kathy's going to teach us. But if you have any questions along the way, you can pop them in the chat and we'll be reviewing those as we go. But also, we'll leave some time at the end so that you can come off mute and just ask the questions yourselves. And yeah, so if you have burning questions, feel free to pop them in. But also know that we'll have some time at the end for you. So, Kathy, I is there anything else you want to mention that I didn't get to just in terms of your work or how you support folks?
I would just briefly share that I love what I do. I love storytelling. I have a film degree and I have 20 years of PR experience. And my original intent in going to college was for journalism. And so I love storytelling. And I would consider us all friends now because you signed up to be my friend because you're looking for advice. And as my friends will know, even if they're not asking for it, I'm always like, have you thought about PR? Like, here's what you can do yourself. So we're all
Yes.
amongst friends today. No, ask me any tough or hard question. Happy to help.
And Kathy and I learned today that we both have braces as grown adults. And so we bonded over that. And
Yes, yes,
we're going on the journey together to perfect teeth. So
yes. Ready for our Hollywood moments.
we're bonding. Yes. All right, Kathy, let's start with just kind of like how you got into this work. Like, why do you love it? Give us that sort of foundation before we move on to jumping right in.
Absolutely. So I started out in working for the PR department, the corporate communications department of Inter Multinational Corporation Bank, HSBC Bank in Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
I received my first internship. I was going to college in upstate New York. I currently live and work in LA. And I was assigned the role of writing six different executive bios And in interviewing the bios, interviewing people for their bios and asking what they did, what is your role, what exactly do you do in that role, I noticed that each and every person, their eyes lit up when they talked about what they did and how it helped people, or what they did and like the difference that it made, or their role in the organization. Like it was like very, very personal. And so
Mm,
I that was like the initial seed that was planted in terms of like the power of a story that's personal versus marketing, advertising, website copy. Everything tells a story, but like when you deliver a message for the purpose of sharing it with an audience, that's what just sparked my interest. And so ever since
mm,
then, I've worked in various capacities for various sizes of PR agencies, and now working as my own consultancy. My favorite type of public relations and media relations is working with either thought leaders on behalf of a brand. So it's like I have a cybersecurity firm and I'm also a cybersecurity leader, or motivational speakers who are sharing their personal narrative from a life story or a bio, or like let's say a doctor or a technologist sharing something that's come to life, sharing some motivation for like how to cure something or address a challenge. And so my favorite thing about public relations and what I have strived every year of my career to do is to tell the story in a more effective way for how today's audiences are engaging. The story element has remained the same since Aristotle's Poetics, like 2000 plus years ago. I think the
mhm.
Greeks might have been more than 2000 years. Don't tell my geography, don't tell my history teacher. I don't know the answers to that. But essentially, I work with whether it's companies, individuals, speakers. I love what I do primarily when I'm able
Yeah.
to work with thought leaders and experts.
I love it. So cool. And folks, if you're just joining my world, I'm Cesar Cervantes. I'm the founder of Top Talks, where we help folks land and deliver TEDx talks and keynote speeches that really connects to their work, their business, and helps grow their platform. And so that's the overlap with Kathy and I, and our worlds have overlapped, and I'm just overjoyed. So. All right, Kathy. So now let's jump in and let's give people the goods. So when we think about, as a speaker and trying to develop our credibility, our authority, trying to
Mhm.
get that earned PR, tell
Mhm.
us, can you just jump in and say like what a lot of folks are bootstrapping this themselves in the beginning and they're learning as they go. Can you give us some tools for how to start?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can also share a few visuals on screen as well.
Perfect.
I'll just try to do that, but if it disrupts anything on Zoom, just let me know,
No
since we're on
problem.
the interesting sound stage. So essentially today, I would love to kick off, like you said, by talking about what exactly is speakers, what exactly is story-driven publicity when it comes to speakers. So today, I'll be looking to share. Five key themes and tactics so that you can bootstrap it on your own, and one additional tip. So we'll be covering the value of speaker publicity, how to connect with the right media, how to follow like a three-act structure similar to a movie or a play. The same thing applies to a good concrete story that you're sharing with the press. And then I'll also share as a PR person how I can recognize when the media is disengaging. So how to stay connected throughout your entire engagement, interview, etc., with the press. And then we'll be wrapping up with how to leverage, how to capitalize on the media hits that you secure. And I'll give one bonus tip before we kick off the final part of the chat today, which is the Wild West of an AMA. Ask me anything. So, what's your first question to put me in the hot seat, Caesar?
Well, yeah, I think that so a lot of us think of or at least I did when I first started speaking. I was like, if I could just get into this thing, like it would change my entire life. And
Yeah.
we think of like building that like logo banner on our website and like as
Hmm.
seen in.
Right,
But
right.
but so first, I guess I would say, how do we get in? How do we get in? And
Okay.
the second follow-up question would be, how do we leverage it so that it does actually work for us?
I love these questions. So essentially, I would first start by saying, like you mentioned, as seen in New York Times or as seen in Fast Company, or for like your subject matter area, as seen in TechCrunch, or maybe like if you're speaking to the financial world, like Financial Times or something like that. So essentially, like I think when you consider how to go about getting in, it's really about focusing on how do I leverage. Why does this matter? So you're building up your credibility. And if you think about it from like a credibility boosting perspective, you want to consider how can I be credible by sharing a story and engaging with people? So if you start by first off, identifying who your media is, that you connect with the right people, and communicating to them in a way that matters, which I'll go into essentially. So I would say first starting, I would actually love to talk about leveraging it more towards the end because like there's a whole process and formula that goes into getting the coverage. So
Sure.
first, I would start, but I would kick off by saying, as a speaker, don't start from scratch with your PR outreach and your PR story, which is like really your public story. Consider what is it that you're speaking on, and within your bio, how and why would a journalist seek you out as an expert or someone who's interesting to speak to? So really, it's the same approach when you're getting booked for speaker gigs. It's the same approach with the media, but you have to really hone in the delivery of it to be highly relevant to that particular journalist. So, what maybe should I give you some examples? Would that be
Yeah.
helpful? Perfect. So, let's say, so currently I have this amazing client who works in the diplomacy, business etiquette, and protocol space. And so, her specific area of subject matter expertise is how to ensure that you are treating people with respect according to how they define respect, whether it's industry standards, culturally appropriate types of interactions, that type of thing. And so currently, if I'm pitching this particular expert to, let's say, why this is important for real estate, I'll provide examples that she just spoke to a real estate firm, and the firm is receiving feedback from their clients that the newly hired people who are now interacting with clients, that their client closing rates are higher because the relationships seem stronger. And so we'll, instead of pitching the reporter and saying, I have this person and she's an expert and you should talk to her because trust me, you should talk to her because that's very much like me, talking about me, my client, my client. Instead, I need to flip it so that when I reach out to the journalist, either through a brief phone call or like a social media message or a direct email, I'll say, "Hello, real estate reporter at Business Insider. First of all, here's a story that I read by you and I really loved it. And
Mm,
along that note, with respect for your time, I have someone who I think would be very interesting for you to talk to. This person has seen this trend in the real estate space and is applying this type of approach to helping either real estate exec firms better train their people, or she's identifying an opportunity where it's like you can have this as a competitive differentiator. So by talking to the journalists about their own audience and how I have a resource who can
yeah.
support them in better connecting with their audience, that's like where the connection comes in. So
Ah,
respect, time, and relevance versus pay attention to me. I'm an expert, trust me. Here's my video of me talking of me. It's great to
yes.
have those things as credentials, but first you have to focus on building the relationship and building respect.
Oh, that's so good because, in general, and this is common for speakers, right? Like especially if you're
Mhm.
pitching yourself to go speak
Yes.
somewhere, it's really about showing all the credibility, right? But this
Yes.
this is sort of the opposite. It's like it's reaching out directly to the journalist, and
Hmm.
then you're acknowledging their work, and then
Yes.
trying to create some kind of connection or relevance on something that they would naturally want to report on. But if we're
It's an
doing it our
attraction approach. Yes.
yes. And then so if we're doing it ourselves, you would just say, like I have something that may be of relevance to you, or I speak on this topic that may be, walk us through maybe what that conversation would look like as the speaker as opposed to you making that connection.
Sure, absolutely. So, I'll give you another example. So, I work with a someone who works in event planning and wedding planning. And so, like, if someone works in wedding planning, they that is such a personal that's such a personal responsibility for your clients. And so this person is both a speaker on how to plan your wedding in a way that matters and will be like the memory of a lifetime. And this person is also like a just so caring with her clients. Like there's a lot of pressure on a wedding planner.
Yeah,
Probably more pressure than all that's on like the groom or the bride.
right.
And so essentially, so if I'm the wedding planner reaching out to, let's say, the wedding beat reporter at the New York Times, or like the head of like a reporter from Bridal Today, like the Bridal Today reporter, all very important because I want the bride to hire me as a wedding planner, as is the New York Times reporter. So I'll tailor my pitch according to, is it Bridal Today or is it the New York Times? So like the New York Times, you're looking at mass media, mainstream media, you're speaking to everyone. So I'll tailor the pitch by saying something to the effect for the New York Times of like, first of all, here's what I appreciate about recent articles that you've covered. Here are some trends that I'm seeing, and that like if there's like a wedding planning association, I'll start the pitch with something that's tangible and relevant, where it's like it's someone other than me as the authority saying that this is the way it is. So
Mm,
I'm making this up, but it's like heading into wedding season this year, due to economic issues, more and more couples are downscaling their weddings.
yeah.
And this data from whatever authority backs that up. Here's what I'm seeing with my clients. Like as a wedding planner, they're willing to be interviewed, and I would also be happy to provide an interview to be a resource to you. Do you have an
Mm,
interest in chatting with us? It's like an invitation, but it's like because
mhm,
it's national media, I'm starting with like very high authority statistics, relevance, like kind of like a national news hook, because that's what the New York Times needs. Versus like Bridal Today, I might be a bit more informal and talk almost like a chatty way, where it's like, I was just in David's bridal. Here are
sure.
some dress themes that I saw. More and more people are looking to get dresses at a discounted rate. And this is a trend that I'm seeing. And a bride that I'm currently working with is willing to share photos. And I can
Okay.
share with you the best tips. So it's like you tailor it according to like who the audience is. It's almost like the journalist is like the medium, the messenger for you to reach the audience of that publication or
Got it.
podcast or like
So
TV channel.
so I want to take a step back because first we,
Sure.
we need to like be able to find these people, right? And so are you saying that like first I want to identify maybe the like an ideal publication, for example? Like so I speak on speaking, right? And speaking
Hmm.
with credibility and authority. And so, for example, if I saw that a journalist did an article about um, leadership communication, for example,
Yes. Yes.
and I was like, oh, that would be cool to do something similar directly on like how to speak with credibility.
Hmm.
And so that might be a journalist that I would be like, hey, you already write for, I don't know, Fast Company. Um, I read this article, really loved it. I speak on this, and um, and then is there any ask, or do I just kind of leave it as like I just wanted to make the connection and then see if they respond? What do you think?
Well, that's like a very specific one-off example. Um, that could be like a first step. So I would recommend first by going to like Barnes and Noble and checking out magazines. Or that's a bit old school, of course, for us who still read paper magazines.
Yeah.
Or you could just go to if you like using an AI search like a chat GPT, or
Huh.
just Google search and say like, What are the top speaker, what are the top audio, top podcasts reaching people who are professional speakers? Or you could also search something like, what are the top, you could search in Google News, like a trendy headline. Like if you think about like the headline that you would like to be in, like, what are the top trends for professional speakers today? Or how is it important for leaders to communicate to their teams? And if you just do kind of like a search where it's almost like you're already envisioning the type of press that you want, see what's already out there. So
Hmm.
that's one way. And then if you also consider, okay, the majority of the people who I work with are business leaders. You could search what are the top business publications in the United States if your focus is, North America or US and Canada. And you'll get the search results where it's like top ones are Fast Company, Insider, Forbes, or if you're more specific, like, oh, I speak exclusively to wealth managers. That's where I get all my clients from, and I'm a thought leader for wealth managers. So you could literally search what are the top financial advisor and wealth management publications or podcasts or YouTube programs. And then based
Nice.
on that, you just create lists. You identify who, where and how the people can be reached on social media. Typically, LinkedIn is a very respected place to connect with people in a way that's introductory and respectful,
Yes.
and it doesn't
Yes.
feel like you're being stalked,
Got it.
essentially. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And that makes more sense, right? Because there may be
Mhm.
some publications and things that you haven't even thought of that would be perfect. So
Yes.
there's a lot of tools that you can use to just help
Yeah.
create that, and then you can go through, see what you connect with, like genuinely what articles, publications, things that are already out there where you're like, oh, I like this.
Yes.
And then you can make that introductory, that sort of first outreach. I want to just say hey to some folks that just joined us: Tudor, Richard, Rachel, Pam, Lee, Christine. Welcome to the call. Folks, if you have any questions as we go, feel free to pop them in the chat. But we'll also again leave some time for Q&A towards the end. All right. So I've got a good sense, Kathy, now that
Hmm.
of like what the approach is. And again, we're talking about earned media, earned PR rather than paid, which you also help with. And
Yeah.
there's certainly some circumstances where that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but for us kind of bootstrapping it and getting it done, I love what you're sharing of first like creating that list and then
Mhm.
finding directly those journalists, reaching out to them. I have um, another question because I think that this is a common problem where like I have a friend who's a producer of a regional talk show, right?
Okay.
And I reached out to him when I was like, "Hey, I've got my business is doing this, and I've got a book coming out, and yada yada." And he was like, "Oh yeah, cool. We'll have you come on the program." And it was really easy, right?
Hmm.
And then I asked him, I was like, "Oh, so how do people typically pitch you?" And he goes, "I get hundreds of emails a day."
Yes.
And I was like, wow. So I don't know if that's common. Do you think that
It
you're
is common. Very
okay.
common. Yes.
So then what are the tips in terms of like whether they will even click on that email to open it?
Sure. So, here's what I recommend about considering that every media contact in any database or whose information is online, and media do want to be reached because they want the tips and the scoops, all of that. The downside is that they get influx with marketing type PR pitches versus like true editorial value pitches. So your best approach is to create an email subject line that is not like an email marketing e-blast, like however you normally market to your audiences. Like that's a direct to audience engagement. This is like a personal letter that you want them to be different from all of the other stuff stuffing their inbox. So if you think about piquing someone's curiosity, or you think about the headline that you want to have, so also you can read the publication and see their headlines. So journalists are just naturally inclined to like click on something if it feels like it has news value, or if it's like an insider tip. So insider
Uh,
trading scoop, right? It's like the second one does not apply to you, but the intrigue of a headline. So like nothing excites me more than when I see a, a story run that I pitched and the headline is super similar to the subject line that I originally pitched. So I
Mm,
would say try to frame your subject line as a headline and make it just a little bit personal. Like, if I'm pitching someone like the climate newsletter journalist at the Wall Street Journal, if I put something that's specific to that, like, enjoyed recent article, quick question on, and then like maybe I'll put something in. If it's almost like a brief conversation starter and they naturally want to open it, versus like if I send the same email to every single person, that type of thing. So if you're not a professional publicist where 40 hours a week you get paid to just pitch the media, you probably have so much to do. So I would identify 50 or less journalists that you're trying to reach on a regular basis. And maybe once or twice a month, you find a reason to engage with them. I would also say 30% of the time, you shouldn't try to pitch yourself. You should just try to engage with them. And so, like, that might not be an email, that might be following them on LinkedIn, commenting on their
yeah.
post,
Ah,
sharing the post, and they might even reshare you. Like, I recently, something really reached me. I do a lot of work in sustainability and climate. And something really reached me from a journalist at a prominent publication. And I shared that. And then this journalist reshared it with like clapping. And I was like, oh,
ah.
I was just platformed by the journalist. It's like, so I was like, wow, like journalists also appreciate validation and genuine
Yes.
care. So like the more you build a relationship, it's really all about like the relationship. So which I know is
Um,
hard, like you're a speaker and you're trying to reach out to like these national journalists or trade journalists. But if you look at it as like if I care about them, I respect their time, and I share a
yes.
story of value, you'll break out eventually. You'll break through
Ah,
eventually.
that's so good because we're all like nothing beats organic and like genuine connections. And
Yes,
so
yes,
this is great. So you want to bring them into your world. You want to
yes.
like connect. Like LinkedIn's the perfect I think
Or
place for that, right?
Instagram,
Yeah.
Instagram or Twitter. Some journalists, like I know one journalist, he is only on Twitter. And
Yes.
I actually keep my Twitter open to communicate with people who are only on Twitter or only on Instagram or only on LinkedIn. So I would
Yes.
say make sure to keep your channels open just so that you can reach people how they prefer to be reached. But most are through email or
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, I mean, if you're really committed to your work, you're playing the long
Mhm.
game anyway. So why
Yes.
not build those relationships? Why not focus on adding value? And then
Hmm.
when that earned PR, that earned connection comes in, it's really it moves better, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
love that. Love those tips. Okay, so just to recap, we can do we can do a search. We can go out there and start finding publications and places that are
Hmm.
already, writing articles, different kinds of media for the world and the our industry, the world in which we
Hmm.
live, right? So
Yes.
have that list ready. Start engaging with it, see what you genuinely connect with and where there's
Yes.
alignment. And then when there's an outreach, you specifically would reach out to, like, let's say a journalist or producer or somebody of that to say, hey, I read this or I saw this program, loved it, really connected
Hmm.
with it. My work is in X, Y, and Z, right? And
Yes.
so if there's ever like a way to collaborate, this is me kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, and
yes,
I would just add versus collaborate because then because like they have a job and they speak to like
yes,
50 people like you a week. So versus collaborate just to creatively build off this brainstorm that we're having this like live how to create a journalist pitch. I love it. I would suggest something to the effect of like this is who I am. Here are some timely things that I'm seeing as an expert in my field that you, the journalist, don't have visibility into because I'm the expert in this field. So if I'm like a doctor, in the cancer field, I could say, I'm seeing these things like this tends to shift in the summer. I know this is a timely topic. Feel free to get back to me if this is of interest or long term, here are my other key topics that I can be a resource on. Reach out anytime. So pique their interest with something
nice.
urgent And then also
Got it.
for the future, keep me in mind because it never fails to astonish me where it's like I'll send out an email. Most of my emails are responded to pretty quickly or within a few weeks or so, but it never fails to astonish me when like 6 months later, someone's like, I saved your pitch. Is your expert available? Like
Yes.
I was doing I was doing like a renewable energy pitch on like a specific type of battery technology. And I got a call from a national journalist 3 months after I sent the pitch. Like she
Wow.
initially replied and said, "Oh yeah, I'll keep this in mind." And then she's like, "Oh, I have an opening. Can you get me someone in 2 hours?" And I
Yes.
did, but it was just really, really interesting. So people will save
That's
those
awesome.
emails, or they'll search them later. So you want to make them valuable, with your information and something urgent and then something for later so that you, again, build a long-term relationship.
That's such a great tip. Urgent, but then also like I'm here.
Yeah.
I also want to reiterate my story was essentially that I just started thinking as you're building a list, what you should
Hmm.
include in your list are people that are already in your network that do exactly what you're the they are the people you're trying to connect with. So maybe they're producers, maybe they're journalists.
Yeah.
So we often don't even know who's in our world already. And when I asked myself that question, I was like, oh, right. I have a friend from college who produces this
Yes.
show now.
Right, right.
And
Or someone might have a podcast and they're a practitioner and they also have a podcast. So for sure,
yeah,
starting with your network is a great first step.
yes. Well, and Kathy, I don't mean to dump on podcasts, but like they're everywhere. And I feel like the sexier kind of media has to do with like, hey, what's that? If I can get on TV or if I can get in this publication that everybody knows, it feels like it
Mhm.
carries more weight and credibility unless you're on like a huge podcast. Would you agree?
I would disagree.
Tell me why. Tell me.
Okay, so I think it's like I think it's like a yes and type of thing. So I've had clients who are in TechCrunch, the Wall Street Journal, VentureBeat, Bloomberg, and they're covered in national media, and they'll be looked up that day. Maybe they'll get some inquiries, and but it comes more to like how you go about leveraging your PR hits, and
Hmm.
so your media hits from PR programs. And so essentially, if you consider that you're an expert in this one field and you're covered in a mainstream publication. Like 1,500 stories by Bloomberg are published every day. So you're one out of 1,500 versus like, oh, I'm headed into this healthcare trade show and I'm going to do a podcast ahead of the healthcare trade show that is going to reach probably like 100% audience targeted demographic of who I'm trying to reach. So if you're like a healthcare expert looking to be booked on healthcare stages as well as like national, more general stages, I'd say pursue the healthcare one. Like if someone is in engineering, they're not going to care about a healthcare podcast, but you're reaching your targeted audience. So I think it's a good mix
Mm.
between the demographics being like super, super concentrated, smaller audience. Like I was recently booking a client on an engineering podcast, and this firm that he represents, they need the buy-in of this type of engineer in order for their technology to move forward. And so that was like a big hit for us even though like you, Caesar, will never hear of this podcast. So I think
Yeah.
it all comes down to like, if you're, and it's also like a matter of if I have to shoot my own video, I have to hire a crew. It probably costs me several $1,000s. If I'm booked on a podcast where they book audio and video, if I'm a speaker, I can now include that as like a speaker sample. And it's like the lower stakes it is, probably the more control I have over the content, the better I'll perform. So I think it's all like an investment in like, how do I leverage the results. So I actually
Yeah.
have a checklist
Good.
I know that we're getting towards like the fun fire
Yeah.
away Q&A. I have a quick checklist I can share with everyone in terms of like how to leverage your PR hits. Would
Please.
that be helpful as we consider how to like bootstrap this?
Yes, please. Let's do that.
Perfect. So it's really important to consider essentially like every time you get a media hit, you should consider how can I share this immediately? Because it's in my world, it's like breaking news. I was on, I was on Dallas Morning Show, or I was covered in the Philadelphia Inquirer, or I have a big hit like a Bloomberg or an NY Times. So get it out immediately. And when you're posting it, be sure to tag the journalist and the like publication itself, and share something to the effect of like, honored to be interviewed here. Here's why this is an important topic, and thank you so much, reporter name, for bringing this story, to the audience of the New York Times, or something like that. So you want it to be meaningful and
Oh,
always from a perspective of gratitude. And then each and every time you get like a podcast hit, or you have like maybe you have like an op-ed published or a column published in a business or a very targeted industry or category publication, like Bridal Today if you're a wedding planner, or like um, you know nd.com if you're like a doctor or something like that. Every time you get a media hit, I would suggest right when you get it, work with, if you're your own social media team, do it right away while it's fresh, because like the longer you wait, like it's kind of like old news and you'll kind of forget about it. So I always recommend right away when you get the PR hit, within 48 hours, create a folder for yourself of graphics or social media posts that you can do to re-promote it. And then over the
mm,
course of 1 or 2 months, re-promote it 3 to 4 times in total. And that could be like, let's say in that Bloomberg article that you might have been featured in, maybe there were other experts who were noted. And as long as they're not like direct Pepsi, Coca-Cola type competitors, like I would be synergistic about I would be collaborative about sharing the love, because it'll come back to you on social media. So let's say, Caesar, you were featured as a speaker, as an expert in there, and that I was also featured as someone who's a peer in the field expert. So if you are doing your post on LinkedIn or Instagram, and you know that I'm on LinkedIn and I can also be tagged, I would suggest maybe putting a second post out where it's kind of like, I enjoyed, being quoted in this article on this topic with, such notable experts as other expert, other expert, other expert, because then suddenly I'll get like a ding in my inbox that says, oh, so and
oh,
so tagged you. And then it's like, maybe I'll like and share it, and then it reaches my audience.
of
So
course.
like the more you can, and also I would also suggest, when you're re-promoting it, re-promote it in different ways. So it's like maybe one is just a text post, maybe one is like a call out image where you say, short quote, Kathy Berardi, in Forbes, and then you can include the link to Forbes. You could also take the media, you can't technically, because like the media owns the content that they create. So it would be, you don't want to like take like the full article and reprint it on your website, because technically that's like an issue of you're not really having permission from them, unless if they give you permission, which is usually not the case. But you can summarize, like I was honored to be quoted. You can write a blog post on your blog that says something like, I was honored to be quoted for this topic. Click here for the article. And then you could give like additional details about the article. And then
Mm,
when you re-promote it, you're driving people to your site with like the authority of the fact that you were quoted in the media. And just in wrapping up, if you put together a story for the press and it seems to do well, or it's so interesting that the press covers it, like that's total validation that a story you're putting out there is of interest. You might want to consider building that into some sort of aspect of your like future presentations, or
mm,
your or like your talks or your deck. So you could say, as you're doing your speaking, you can draw your audience in and say, I was recently interviewed by Bloomberg on this, and I would love to take the time. I wanted to speak with the reporter forever, but understandably, they only had 5 minutes for the segment. But here's what else I wanted to share you directly to my audience. So that's like another way where it's like you can use the PR hits to like amplify your brand. Like I was in Bloomberg, and here's, not like to show off about yourself, but to make it just seem so relevant and urgent, like to the audience who you're speaking to as well. And
yes.
in the AMA, if people have questions about how to promote their PR hits, because that's like the long-term value, I'm happy to answer that as well. There's a ton of weight that media hits carry right now, and how you're found online, in addition to when someone searches you. So it's like an event booker, an event planner wants to book you. they search your name, they see an article in Bloomberg, they see an article in your like niche,
Yes.
your like Bridal Today or MD Today. It's like that's like instant credibility. And with what's called GEO, generative engine optimization, and SEO, both rely on media hits to go to the top of the search. So if you get this game right and get like a few media hits, it can really help your long-term brand in terms of instant trust online.
Yes. Oh, so good,
I could
Kathy.
talk
So,
forever
so
about
good.
it, but
I
I'll
love
leave it
it. I
there.
love it. So we have a question here in the chat. So
Mhm.
Lee is saying, I have two areas of expertise, but I think she's saying when I go out there to try and get media or I'm pitching myself, should I
Mhm.
split between these two areas or should I really just be focusing on one?
Is it okay if we have a two-way conversation with Lee?
Yeah, Lee, can you come off mute here real quick?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, so why don't can we take a maybe 2 minutes to talk about this, Caesar? Would that be all right?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, awesome. So Lee, first of all, thank you for coming today and thank you so much for your question. What are your two types of expertise?
So I am beginning a speaking and coaching career around really like self-worth and value and just really kind of what we how we lose ourselves in a professional environment because I've been in
Okay.
corporate life for 20 years. But because I've been in corporate life for 20 years, my true skill set and expertise is in adult beverages, and I've become an expert in hemp beverages, which are extremely popular right now. And I'm kind of one of the leading female figures in the space, but they're so different, so one's like speaking coaching and one's like hemp beverages. So I don't know if I should lean in here because it's where I have the most street cred, or if I
Hmm.
should just really bootstrap this one to like grow it. Does that make sense?
I believe it does. It sounds like you have two different business categories. Would that be correct to say?
Yes.
So would you be attracting the same audience with each one, or would you be attracting different audiences?
I believe I'd be attracting different audiences. And where I'm going with this is like, should I essentially leverage my credentials in thought leadership in this category to then build a bigger audience so that I could then have more credibility over here?
Okay. So I think so like the advice I'm going to give might not be like super specific to your exact details, but it'll be more general. So essentially like there's a founder there's a brand of drink called Hint. Are you familiar with it?
No.
It's like a fruity flavor water, but it's still clear and it's like super healthy. So the founder of that beverage company has a podcast about entrepreneurism. And the she doesn't, to my knowledge, like the podcast is not about how to get to the top of the beverage sales charts. It's about being a company founder. So she speaks with experience from growing this brand, which could have been she could have been selling apparel or
Right.
anything. So she speaks from her experience. So I think like if there's crossover between like how to own your own business and reclaim your self-worth and move forward in an area that matters. So I think like if there's some elements to what you do as like a small business owner or a founder or a top female founder that plays into that. So it's like if there are crossovers, make sure that they're relevant. But it does sound like you could be pitching the press who cover entrepreneurism, the press who cover products specific to food and beverage. And then on the other side, there's like the coaching. So it sounds like it could be two separate outreaches, but you could leverage your experience one way or another. Just you would have to be like highly relevant between the two. Do you feel like that's helpful? Did I address it or?
Yeah, no, you did.
Okay, great.
I think I just want to make sure that in this ecosphere, it wouldn't get too messy. And it doesn't sound like it would.
I think it's just a matter of like if you have two different websites, like if you have like a beverage selling website
Yeah,
that
exactly.
might have like an about founder page, but it's really focused on the product versus like you also do coaching. There's many people who are doing things in parallel. So I think you just have to very clearly communicate depending on which lane you're in that day or at any given time of the day. Thank
Perfect.
you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that, Lee. That's a great example.
Lee, there's a book called I believe it's called You Are the Brand.
Uh-huh.
And it talks a lot about how these days, really, you have the personal brand, and then if you have a business, it can live on, as the business, right? But your personal brand, essentially, as Kathy was saying, is all of it. And so you
Hmm.
look for those connections as so that you can then promote the personal brand. Or the business would then, and the business would then have its own kind of a branding and its own thing that it does, but the pyramid is kind of like that, like you are the brand, right?
Yeah.
And so thinking about it from that approach, then you can trickle down. But also one of the pitfalls is that, especially if you know uh you're finding yourself splitting your time and energy, it may be a question of like, what are my core offerings and what is bringing in most of my revenue, and that you just focus your energy on that. Because a lot of times we start drowning in opportunity, and then things start to suffer because of it. And so I'm a big fan of really having fewer offers and fewer entities out there, because it makes life more enjoyable. But that's just my personal approach. So I hope that's helpful, Lee.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So we've got one more question here, Kathy. John says, I'm a corporate trainer and speaker. When I get a contract for training, I drop the ball on marketing and reach out until I finish the contract. And then I have to start from scratch to promote my speaking. Um, what's the question, John? Come off of mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess I mean, in a perfect world, I'd have a full-time assistant that just does the marketing and all that. It's just that, yeah, I just feel like I keep starting over every time.
Mm,
Every time I start over again, right? So you can't, like, I just did a program that kept me busy for a year. And then I come off, and it's like the train stops and everybody goes flying to the front. And I'm like, okay, shit, where do I go again? Who do I reach out to? So I don't know if it's a question or if I'm just complaining.
Well, that's okay. I have some thoughts about how to solve, and I'm sure Kathy will too. I think that ultimately, when you're talking about, your business as a trainer and a speaker, what you want to do is build it to a point where, it's mostly referral based and you're getting repeat contracts, right? And that you're speaking and training at, let's say if you get 30 a year, you're full time, you're busy, right? I guess 30 to 60 is kind of like, oh, you're busy. And so thinking about the business from that perspective is like, I think helpful, because then you're focusing on building those relationships that create return clients and revenue. And then you get in that flow. The other thing I would say is that if that's not happening naturally and you're trying to do that, you want to look at then your delivery of your content, and that the content needs to communicate to people how they can continue to work with you. So it's not just that you think about it that way, but that you also build it into your content. So that's the first thought that I have. The second is that a lot of the I think a lot of media and marketing like funnels can run on their own in a way, right? But the outreach that Kathy's talking about may need an assistant, right? May need a VA. And then what you want to do is just build in a repeatable process so that you could hand it to somebody, and it doesn't it doesn't cost you too much, and the business doesn't suffer in that way. So those are my initial thoughts. Kathy, what comes to mind for you?
I was actually just trying to look up my own calendar so that I could show you what I do, but I couldn't find it. But essentially, like, I would recommend literally if you have like a Google Calendar, what's your calendaring system for personal or professional tasks, John?
I use both Mac Calendar and Google. You know,
Okay, so I would suggest on the what's your favorite week of the month?
well,
Like first week, second week, like what's your least stressful week? Like the last, let's just say it's the last week of every month. And then
it
on the
would be the last week, yeah.
okay, so what's your favorite day of the week? Do you have like when is Thursday a
Tu
pretty low stress day?
Tuesday.
Okay, so
Yeah, okay.
okay, so every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, every last Tuesday at 12 o'clock of the month, you could just set a recurring thing right now and say, um, branding outreach reminder. And then consider 3 steps you can take once a month that might be repeatable when you have time throughout the month. And so that could be look up and compliment 5 journalists and their stories. That could be create 3 posts that I can auto schedule on LinkedIn about the talk or program I just did. And that could also be reaching out to a customer for a testimonial and then sharing that on LinkedIn and having it ready if you like want to have a ready to go customer testimonial, like an end user quote for like a press interview. And so just scheduling it in that way, I think whenever you have a talk, it's already there. Like the content is like it's like a rinse and repeat
Mm,
process.
yeah.
So the great thing about bootstrapping it yourself is that you're the only expert, you're your only PR client. And so you can probably very easily have like a template that you tailor and customize based on who you're reaching out to on LinkedIn or content that you're sharing. Is that helpful?
Well, it's a silly little thing, but I think it does. I think if you schedule it, it's like that's if I'm doing these programs, I can easily schedule it, particularly on a travel day.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I
So
mean, what a simple
I would do it right now.
solution.
Do you want me to send you a calendar invite to commit you to it? If you drop your email in the chat, I will do. I'm all about accountability.
I'm all about people reminding me of stuff. I've been married
Okay.
43 years. I don't do anything on myself. I can't dress myself. I dress myself and I verify if it's okay, you know.
John, the last thing I'll say is just, remember, so when we think about PR, I think that some folks may think it's a replacement for just solving problems for your audience. Like it's about building credibility and authority and connecting with folks and showing what you do. But also like there's no substitute for you just creating content or connecting with people in a way that helps solve a problem. Because at the end of the day, like if they see you as someone who can solve their problem, they're going to hire you. And
Yes.
so sometimes our energy is better spent on thinking about how we can help people solve problems. And so just one added additional thought there for you. Thanks for popping in the email. Kathy's going to hold you accountable. You better watch
I'll
out.
send you that calendar invite.
And then, yeah, John, good luck. Thank you so much. All
Thanks.
right, we've got one more question, Kathy. So Pam says, what are your insights for leveraging Substack to develop your platform? For instance, is it a complement to LinkedIn, or should we choose one lane or go all in? I haven't used Substack. I've seen it grow, and certainly there are folks that are um, have massive audiences and even generate revenue from their Substack, right? I'm curious to hear from a PR perspective, your thoughts on this. But I want to say, like, any platform could work. And there are people using platforms to run their businesses. There are people that are just on TikTok or just on LinkedIn or just on Substack. So for me, my thought is, do you like Substack? Like, is it something you engage with? Are you already on there? Do you want to create content there? Is that exciting to you? Like, let yourself sort of answer the question, would it be easy and fun for me to create content and use this platform? What are your thoughts, Kathy?
Well, I love the fact that you asked already, what do I love about it? Like, am I already active on it? So, like, I'm never on Twitter, but I keep my account open so that I can communicate with people who might be on Twitter, who prefer to be on it. So, as an individual entrepreneur, personal brand, whatever your case might be, I think it's really hard to be in 15 places and it's very ineffective. You're just stretched thin and you're more noise. You really only make a difference. Like the algorithms are going to probably push you the most wherever you are the most active as a participant in communities. So I have a film thought leader who has a Substack and a podcast, and the podcast is also on like Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, but his primary engagement is Substack. And so, because he can write like a brief thing, people can easily comment. It's like a community builder. So, I would identify what platform do you love? And is the platform that you love also loved by the audience that you're trying to reach? And is it a platform that is long term going to be feasible for you? Because sometimes platforms change their fees, how they distribute, etc. So I would say try to pick one that's pretty stable that you enjoy. Medium might be a great option in addition to Substack. As of right now, like journalists who are I've seen journalists who might be leaving a very highly prestigious, media organization, and they're opening their own Substack. So it
Hmm.
seems like Substack is like a very high authority to attract an audience and engage. But that's for people who just love, that could be like for people who love writing and want to build a thought leader brand around thought leadership. If you're trying to convert, let's say you're like an e-commerce driven brand. If you're trying to convert people to purchase products, Substack, I believe, has restrictions around too much marketing. Like they really want to be almost like a media platform that anyone could open a publication on, but it's like very pure. So if you're looking to maybe do more combined selling, pop-ups, and thought and like sharing your
Yeah.
communications, you might want to consider a brand a platform that permits that type of thing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Great feedback, Kathy. Pam, I hope that was helpful. Folks, wow. Kathy just brought it. And I think we have to have you back, Kathy, because like we
Oh,
just
thank
we
you.
gotta do more. Folks, can we give one more round of applause to Kathy Berardi
Thank
for
you so
joining us?
much.
Woo, Kathy,
Really, really appreciate
how
it.
can people reach you? How do they, if they just want to work with you instead of doing all the things, how do they start?
Sure, I actually have a slide for that. So essentially, I'm highly reachable on LinkedIn, and you can always, if you want to grab my information here or even provide this deck to your followers, I'm happy to have it shared publicly. Like a journalist, I like to be reached at any time, at any place. But yes, happy to address questions. LinkedIn is the best place. I'm always on email and phone number there also directly. Feel free to reach out.
Fantastic. All right, folks. Well, just like we started, we do have to dance our way out of this show.
It is a Friday.
Oh my goodness.
Woo!
Yes, Kathy.
Cheers.
Kathy
This is water, I
Bacardi.
swear. Woo! Thank you so much for making this was so fun, Caesar. And John, you
Woo!
got the beverage there too. And great to see everyone. Thank
You're
you.
so welcome. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.